and welcome to Cat and Figures. I'm your host Caitlin, and on today's video we are going to be reviewing another comic. So we'll be reviewing Vampironica issue 2. So this continues the story of when Veronica Lodge got bit by a vampire. So if you haven't already watched my review for issue 1 or you haven't read that issue, I would suggest checking that out as well. But we pick up where we left off in the last issue. So after the car crash, after the attack, Veronica is running around in the woods, not really sure what's going on, still really overwhelmed by so many different things, and she ultimately decides to go back to the place of the accident. And when she gets there, she realizes that none of the cars are there, nor is there any blood. And there's no possible way that all of this has just disappeared, unless. So she decides to take off, and then she completely misses the vampire bat that's watching her. So off to Archie Andrews' house for some help, until she realizes that Betty's still there on her date. So, of course, she's pissed off, especially when she finds out they're watching a scary movie. And the entire time, we get this really funny banter with Veronica stating that Betty is just faking being scared and trying to put the move on Archie. And that almost works until Veronica, in a huff, slams the window and scares both of them, so much so that he decides to take Betty home, worried that his parents are going to find out that she's still there. So Veronica, not knowing where to go, who to turn to, or what's even really happening to her, she goes to the school and she sits in the boiler room alone. That is, of course, until the following morning when Dilton goes to the school, and he finds a very shocking Veronica Lodge, as you can see here, fangs and all. She very quickly comes to her senses and apologizes about the entire thing, saying that she's just not really herself. She's always cranky in the mornings, and she starts to feel really odd, and then she loses consciousness. So while she's unconscious, she has a dream, and she's shopping, which, of course, not too unpredictable for Veronica Lodge, but she's shopping for severed heads, and we get to see the decapitated forms of Archie Andrews, Betty, and Jughead, and the sales associate's the same vampire who she dealt with earlier, and he tells her that they don't allow animals in the store. Then she turns into like more of a primal version of a vampire. Much more daybreakers than, classic bullshit glamour vampire. You might see. And even the heads of her friends seem very disgusted by the appearance of this creature. And Veronica wakes up and she realizes that she's chained to a table in Dilton's lab. And he realized that she's a vampire. So not really knowing what to do with her, he brought her back to his lab and chained her up. And he does offer her some blood, and he's trying to talk to her. And ultimately, the two decide to join forces to try to figure out what exactly is going on. And she very easily just breaks the chains. So, if she wanted to kill him, she could have. So she drinks the blood, and the two decide exactly what's going on. She tells him basically an overview of the previous night, and he needs to get her back to his place to go a bit more in depth with the research of vampires and show her some of the things that he found out. So they dive into what Archie Comics has decided is their version of a vampire. So we get the classic Moroi and Strigoi storyline here, with the one vampire master having various minions. We also have a little brief synopsis of the Dragul family, aka Vlad the Impaler and his family. Really love vampires, Buffy the Vampire fan from way back when. So, not going to get too far into that. But Veronica decides she has a pretty good idea who the master is and how they're going to be able to solve everything. But she's going to need some weapons. So, meanwhile, back after the big game, Archie's talking to Betty and wondering where Ronnie is. And Betty says that she's been calling her all day, but she's just been icing her out, so she's probably still pissed about their date last night. They're also asking what's up with Reggie. He was really a beast this last game. And Betty tells Archie that she thought she saw him run off with some girl. And that's where we see that Reggie is now a vampire. So this story is going to be continued in Vampironica issue 3. Just like in the last issue, it's still very 1990s Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Of course, there's a lot of weird mystery Archies going on there, clearly. And I'm really loving a lot of the references back here and back there. I do appreciate the fact that they did try to dive into deeper vampire lore with this. So really liked that. I loved the art throughout, and the writing was really solid. Read the book through, really enjoyed it. If you are at all interested in checking this out, I definitely would suggest picking this or the last issue up at your local comic shop. So as always, guys, give me a like if you like this video, comment below and tell me whether or not you are currently reading Vampironica and whether or not you're enjoying it as much as I am. Subscribe to my channel for more comic book content, or check out any of the older videos I have up for offer here on Cat Run Figures. And until next time, I'm your host, Caitlin. Bye.